when the gods had shaped the heavens and the earth, when the waters of chaos had been tamed and order had been born, humankind began to build cities, and among them rose one mightier than all, Uruk, the city of walls that reached toward the sun. Its king was Gilgamesh, born of a mortal father and a divine mother, 2/3 god, 1/3 man, the strongest of all beings to walk the earth. His hands could bend iron, his heart could command armies, yet within him burned a hunger that no victory could fill. For Gilgamesh desired not gold, nor power, nor love. He sought to escape death itself. In his youth he conquered, he built, he ruled, but the gods, seeing his pride, sent forth a wild man from the wilderness, Enkidu, born of the clay and the beasts, free and untamed. And when these two met, the world trembled, for fate had bound them together, not as enemies, but as brothers. Together they would challenge the guardians of the gods, slay monsters, defy heaven itself. Yet from their triumph would rise a sorrow so great that even the gods would weep. And so begins the tale, not of creation, but of the created. The first story of a man who looked upon his own mortality and asked, "Why must we die?" This is the Epic of Gilgamesh, the oldest song of kings and the eternal cry of the human soul. Welcome back to my channel, everyone. Today, we will take a tour around the world to explore the epic stories and myths of various countries. The story I want to share with you today is titled The Epic of Gilgamesh, Journey Beyond Death, Friendship, and Immortality. Chapter 1, King of Uruk. When the chaos had settled and the gods withdrew to their celestial thrones, the world of men began to rise upon the fertile banks of the two great rivers. There, under the eternal sun, stood the city of Uruk, crowned with walls of stone that gleamed like bronze in the light of dawn. Its towers reached toward heaven, its gates faced the winds of every direction, and its streets sang with the voices of merchants, craftsmen, and priests. It was said that even the gods looked down upon Uruk and marveled at the work of human hands. At the heart of that city ruled Gilgamesh, son of Lugalbanda, the mortal king, and Ninsun, the holy cow goddess. From birth he bore the mark of greatness, 2/3 god, 1/3 man. The strength of the divine pulsed in his blood. The fire of ambition burned in his eyes. He could outpace the storm, outfight the lion, and his roar echoed across the walls of Uruk like thunder over the plains. No mortal could stand before him, and none dared to defy his will. But though the gods had blessed him with power, they had not tempered his heart. Gilgamesh ruled with pride, and his desires knew no bounds. He bent the people to his command, forcing labor upon men and taking what pleased him from women. The people of Uruk, who had once built their city with joy, now whispered in fear beneath the moon. "He is our king," they said, "but he is a storm that does not rest. Who among the gods will save us from his shadow?" And the gods heard in the high assembly, where Unu, the Sky Father, sat upon his throne, and Enlil weighed the fates of men. The cries of Uruk reached their ears. Ninsun, the divine mother, wept for her son and begged that he might learn compassion. Then Aruru, goddess of creation, whose hands had once shaped mankind from clay, rose and spoke. "Let us fashion his equal, one who is his reflection, his rival, his heart's other half. Let them clash and be tempered, that the fire of pride may be cooled by the water of friendship." So Aruru took clay from the riverbank, mixed it with the breath of life, and formed a man, Enkidu, wild and untamed, covered in hair running with the beasts of the field. He knew not the city, nor speech, nor law. The gazelles were his brothers. He drank beside them at the waterhole. The winds were his songs, the earth his bed. In Uruk, however, Gilgamesh dreamed strange dreams. He saw a star fall from heaven, blazing brighter than the sun, and he struggled to lift it, but it stood firm. The people of Uruk gathered around it and praised its light. Then came another dream. An axe appeared at his gate, heavy and shining, and he loved it as he would a brother. When he told his mother, the wise Ninsen smiled and said, "My son, there comes one who is your equal. You will wrestle him, and in that struggle, you will find yourself." Days passed. Word spread that a wild man roamed the steppe, freeing animals from traps and breaking the hunter's snares. One hunter, fearful for his livelihood, went to Gilgamesh and told him of this creature, mightier than any beast. The king laughed, his voice rolling like thunder. "If he is so strong, let him come to Uruk and face me. Then we shall see whose strength the gods favor." The hunter sought counsel from the priests, and they said, "Take with you Shemhat, the temple priestess, whose beauty tames the hearts of men and beasts alike. She will teach him the ways of civilization." And so the hunter and Shamhat went to the watering hole, where Enkidu drank among the gazelles. When he saw her, he paused, for never had he beheld such a being. Her eyes glimmered like stars reflected in calm water, her voice softer than wind through reeds. She approached without fear, calling his name, though he did not yet know language. When she touched his hand, the beasts fled, for the wild had felt the breath of the divine. For 6 days and 7 nights they remained together, and in that time the wilderness loosened its hold upon him. The gazelles no longer came when he called. The wind no longer answered his cries. Enkidu sat silent beside Shamhat, and she said gently, "You are no longer a beast, Enkidu. You are as man. Come, and I will show you Uruk, the city of the gods and men." He followed her, though his heart ached as he looked back upon the hills and herds that had been his kin. Together they walked the long road toward the rising sun, where the walls of Uruk shimmered like fire upon the horizon. Meanwhile, in the city, Gilgamesh stood upon his tower, looking out across the plain. A wind stirred his cloak, and he felt, for the first time, a whisper of destiny. "Something comes," he murmured, "something not born of the city, yet shaped for it. I can feel his tread upon the dust." And the gods watched, unseen, from their high places. They smiled, for the wheel of fate had begun to turn. The storm would soon meet its mirror, and the story of kings and men would never be the same again. Chapter 2. The wild man, Enkidu. The dawn broke, red across the plains, and the winds carried the scent of clay and grass as Enkidu walked beside Shamhat toward the walls of Uruk. Each step drew him farther from the wilderness that had once been his home. His heart ached with confusion. The earth beneath his feet felt different now, heavier, shaped by hands instead of the will of the gods. He had been born of soil and spirit, but now he was something else, a being between worlds, not beast, not god, not man, but all and none at once. Shamhat watched him with quiet understanding. "You were made by the hands of Aruru, the mother of all," she said softly. "Your purpose is not to run with beasts, but to stand among men. In Uruk, you will find who you are meant to be." As they drew near, Enkidu beheld the great walls of the city rising like mountains of stone, their gates adorned with copper, their towers gleaming in the sun. He had never seen such vastness, such defiance of nature. "These are not the works of men," he whispered, "but of gods." Shemhat smiled. "Indeed, the hand of Gilgamesh is in every stone. He is mighty and proud, and you, Enkidu, are sent to change his fate." When they entered Uruk, the people stopped and stared. The wild man's hair fell to his shoulders like a lion's mane. His eyes burned like dawn. He walked barefoot through the streets, silent yet powerful, his very presence stirring murmurs among the crowd. Children followed at a distance, whispering stories. Is he a god? Is he the one the goddess promised? Will he fight the king? They came at last to the temple of Ishtar, where priests burned incense and sang praises to the Lady of Love and War. Shamhat brought Enkidu before the altar, and the high priest laid hands upon his brow. "May the blessings of the goddess temper your strength," he intoned. "For the wildness within you must bow before purpose, or it will devour itself." That night, Enkidu lay upon soft linen for the first time. The silence of the temple was strange to him. No rustle of grass, no cry of wolves, no whisper of wind through reeds. His heart longed for the open plain. Yet, when he closed his eyes, he saw visions, the face of a man crowned in light, standing upon a golden wall, his gaze proud, his voice like thunder. Enkidu awoke with a start. "Who is he?" he asked. Shamhat, watching from the shadows, answered, "The one for whom you were made." Days passed, and Enkidu began to learn the ways of men. He ate bread and drank wine, food of the city. The priests clothed him in woven garments. Farmers showed him how to till the soil. Shepherds taught him to guard flocks. And the elders spoke to him of justice, order, and the will of the gods. Yet he felt unrest in his soul, for though he learned, he did not yet understand. Then one day, as he sat at the gate of the city, he heard the cry of a young bride. Her father and mother wept beside her, and the women of Uruk cursed beneath their breath. Enkidu turned to a man nearby. "Why do they cry?" he asked. The man spat upon the ground. "It is the king's decree. On the wedding night, Gilgamesh lies first with the bride before her husband. Such is the law, for he claims the right of the gods." Enkidu's face darkened. "The gods may command the sky," he said, "but no man should command another's joy." The man looked at him in fear. "Do not speak against the king, stranger. He is half divine." But Enkidu rose, his fury rising like a storm over the plain. "Divine or not," he said, "he will not take what is not his tonight." When night fell, the streets of Uruk filled with song and the scent of wine. The wedding procession wound its way through the square, torches blazing, drums echoing. At its center walked Gilgamesh, towering and radiant, his eyes burning with the pride of kingship. The people bowed as he passed, but Enkidu stood firm before the gate, a shadow against the firelight. Gilgamesh halted. "Who bars my path?" he demanded, his voice thundering through the square. "Who dares defy the son of Ninsun?" Enkidu stepped forward. "I am Enkidu," he said, "born of clay and breath, sent by the gods to end your tyranny. You shall not cross this threshold tonight." A murmur ran through the crowd. The king's eyes narrowed, his muscles tensed beneath his robes of gold. "Then you are the one from my dreams," he said quietly, "the one who comes to test my strength. Very well, wild man, let us see which of us the gods favor." They clashed like storms colliding, shaking the city to its foundations. The walls trembled, dust fell from the heavens, and the people fled to the rooftops to watch. Gilgamesh struck first, his blows like lightning, but Enkidu caught his arm, twisting with the power of the earth itself. They wrestled through the streets, breaking doors and shattering stones. The ground groaned beneath their struggle, as if the gods themselves held their breath. At last, after a long battle, Gilgamesh drove Enkidu to his knees. Yet, before the final blow could fall, he stopped. For in Enkidu's eyes, he saw not hatred, but courage, not rebellion, but understanding. Enkidu met his gaze, chest heaving. "You fight like the gods," he said. "But even gods must learn humility." Gilgamesh laughed, breathless. "And you, wild man, fight with the heart of a king." Then they stood together, panting, and the fury between them dissolved like mist beneath the rising sun. Gilgamesh extended his hand. "Come," he said. "You are no enemy. You are my brother." Enkidu grasped his wrist, and the bond was sealed, not by the law of gods or men, but by the strength of shared spirit. The people of Uruk emerged from hiding and beheld a wonder. The king who had ruled alone now walked beside another, equal in might, joined in destiny. That night, the city sang not in fear, but in joy. From the heavens, Anu and Aruru watched, smiling. "It is done," said Aruru. "The wildness of man has met the pride of kingship. The two halves of strength are one." And so began the greatest friendship the world had ever known. One that would challenge the gods, defy death, and echo through the ages like thunder over the plains of time. Chapter 3. The Brothers of Destiny. The sun rose over the walls of Uruk, pouring gold upon the city's towers, and for the first time in many years, the people awoke without fear. The storm that had ruled them, Gilgamesh, had been calmed, not by the gods, but by the hand of a man shaped from clay and wilderness. In the royal palace, laughter echoed where once only command had been heard. The king and the wild man sat side by side, drinking wine, their arms still bruised from the battle that had sealed their brotherhood. "Never," said Gilgamesh, his voice rich with mirth, "has there been one who could match me blow for blow? You, Enkidu, are a mirror to my might and the measure of my soul." Enkidu smiled faintly. "And you, Gilgamesh, are more than a king. You are the storm given form, yet within you lies the heart of a man. I have seen it." The bond between them grew swiftly, as if the gods themselves had written their names upon the same line of fate. They roamed the streets of Uruk together, speaking with the people, rebuilding what they had shattered in their struggle. Gilgamesh learned to listen to the voices of his city, while Enkidu, once wild and wordless, began to grasp the depth of human joy and sorrow. But peace, though sweet, is never long in the world of men. One night, as they feasted in the hall of the king, a shadow passed across Gilgamesh's heart. His eyes, once bright with triumph, turned distant, gazing beyond the torch's glow. "Brother," he said quietly, "I have known the strength of man, and I have seen the beauty of life. Yet I feel a restlessness within me, a voice whispering that there is more than this, that glory lies beyond the walls of Uruk." Enkidu looked at him with concern. "What more do you seek, Gilgamesh? You have power, wisdom, and the love of your people." Gilgamesh leaned forward, eyes aflame. "I seek immortality, not of body, but of name. The gods live forever because their deeds echo in the hearts of men. Should we not, too, carve our names into eternity? There is a creature of legend, the guardian of the cedar forest, where the gods dwell. His name is Humbaba, servant of Enlil, whose face is terror, whose voice is flame. Let us go to that forest, slay him, and claim eternal renown. The hall fell silent. Even the servants ceased to breathe. Enkidu's face paled. You speak of blasphemy. Humbaba is not of this world. He was set there by Enlil himself to guard the sacred grove. To fight him is to fight the will of heaven. Gilgamesh rose to his full height, his voice ringing like steel on stone. Then let heaven watch. Are we not born of both earth and God? Shall we live as shadows, fearing the light? I would rather die in the pursuit of greatness than live 1,000 years forgotten. For a long moment, Enkidu said nothing. He looked upon his brother and saw not arrogance, but destiny, a fire that could not be quenched. At last, he nodded slowly. If you go, I go with you. I was made to stand beside you, whether in glory or in death. The next morning, they went to the temple of Shamash, god of the sun, to seek his blessing. The priests poured oil upon the altar, and the god's light shone through the smoke like molten gold. Gilgamesh knelt and prayed, O Shamash, great Lord of truth, bless our journey, guide our feet to the forest, and grant us victory over the demon who defies men. And from the flame came a voice, soft as dawn and terrible as noon. Go, Gilgamesh, son of Uruk. Go, Enkidu, child of clay. But know this, the path you seek is lined with sorrow. One of you shall not return. Enkidu bowed his head, the words striking deep into his heart. But Gilgamesh only smiled. Then let it be written by our hands, not by fear. They forged their weapons in the heat of the royal forge, swords of bronze, shields of hammered gold, spears as long as the arm of a god. The craftsmen sang as they worked, for they knew they were shaping not mere metal, but legend. When the weapons were done, Gilgamesh and Enkidu clasped hands once more. Brothers of destiny, said Gilgamesh. Brothers of fate, answered Enkidu. Before they departed, Nensin, the divine mother of Gilgamesh, came down from her high chamber, her robes white as starlight. She took Enkidu's face in her hands. Wild son, she said tenderly, you are no longer a stranger. I claim you as my own. Watch over my child, for his spirit is fierce and fate is cruel. She lifted her eyes to heaven. O Shamash, let your light not fail him. Then, with the city gathered at the gate, the two heroes set forth. The walls of Uruk shone behind them like memory, and the open plains stretched ahead, endless, waiting. For days they journeyed, crossing rivers and deserts, sleeping beneath the eyes of the stars. They spoke of dreams and of the gods, of courage and fear, and in their words grew a friendship stronger than the weapons they bore. On the seventh night, as they rested by a sacred spring, Gilgamesh dreamed again. In his sleep, he saw a great mountain fall upon him, crushing him beneath its weight. But a radiant light burst from the sky, and a hand lifted him free. When he awoke, he told the dream to Enkidu. It is a good omen, said Enkidu. The mountain is Humbaba, and the light is Shamash. The gods will aid us. When dawn came, they continued their march until the air grew thick with the scent of cedar, and the sky darkened beneath towering trees. The earth trembled with the breath of the guardian. Enkidu stopped, his hand upon his brother's arm. We stand at the edge of the world, he whispered. Beyond this forest lies the realm of gods. Once we enter, there is no return. Gilgamesh drew his sword, its edge gleaming with firelight. Then let us enter as kings, not beggars. Together they stepped into the shadowed woods, their hearts steady, their destiny sealed. And far above, The gods watched in silence as two mortals strode into the realm of the divine to challenge fear itself. Chapter 4: The Forest of the Gods. The wind grew heavy with the scent of resin and earth as Gilgamesh and Enkidu crossed the threshold into the cedar forest, the realm of the gods. The air itself seemed alive, humming with divine breath. The trees towered beyond sight, their trunks wide as temple pillars, their leaves whispering in tongues older than mankind. Shafts of sunlight pierced through the canopy like golden spears, and the ground beneath their feet glowed faintly as if touched by the fire of heaven. They moved cautiously, for the forest was sacred, forbidden to men. Every rustle of leaves sounded like the murmur of gods displeased. Birds of impossible colors watched them from the branches, and beasts unseen moved through the undergrowth, their eyes burning faintly in the half-light. Enkidu's hand hovered near his blade. "I know this place," he said softly. "I have felt its shadow in my dreams. The air is thick with enchantment. The trees are alive. They see, they listen." Gilgamesh smiled grimly. "Let them watch." We did not come to tremble. They pressed on, deeper and deeper, until the day seemed to fade. The forest grew denser, the air darker, and the silence more profound. Only the sound of their footsteps and the slow beat of their hearts echoed between the trunks. Then, from somewhere unseen, there came a sound, not of wind nor beast, but a low, deep breathing, ancient and terrible. The leaves trembled, and the earth quivered beneath their feet. "Humbaba," whispered Enkidu. Gilgamesh raised his sword. "Then let him come." A shadow fell across the path. The trees bowed, as if in fear. From between the trunks emerged a figure vast as a mountain, his face a mask of coiling flame and smoke, his eyes burning like suns behind the veil. His voice rolled like thunder through the forest. "Who dares enter the dwelling of the gods? Who defiles the cedar forest with mortal breath?" Gilgamesh stepped forward, his heart unyielding. "I am Gilgamesh, king of Uruk, and this is Enkidu, my brother in arms. We come to carve our names in the bark of eternity. You guard this place by the will of Enlil, yet we come not to steal, but to prove that men can rise as high as the heavens themselves." Humbaba's laughter shook the forest. "Fools, you think your names matter to the gods? You are dust that dreams of thunder. I am the breath of Enlil's wrath, the fire of his judgment. Your bones will feed the roots of these trees for 1,000 years." Then the guardian roared, and the wind turned violent. Trees bent and broke. Lightning flashed from his mouth, and the sky itself seemed to split. Gilgamesh and Enkidu were thrown to their knees, their armor scorched by divine fire. Enkidu cried out, "Gilgamesh, he is too strong. His power is the breath of the gods." But Gilgamesh gritted his teeth, his eyes blazing with defiance. "Then we call upon the one who walks with the sun." He raised his sword. "Guide our hands as you promised," the heavens answered. A beam of sunlight pierced the canopy, striking Humbaba's chest. The giant reeled, his flames dimming. In that moment, Gilgamesh charged, his sword singing like a comet through the air. Enkidu followed, his spear flashing with the light of dawn. The battle that followed was like none the world had ever seen. They fought among the roots of the sacred trees, where the shadows of gods twisted and danced. Humbaba's roar shattered stone and split the ground, but the heroes did not falter. Gilgamesh struck high, Enkidu struck low, their movements bound by the rhythm of brotherhood. The forest itself seemed to watch, the leaves trembling with each blow, the air shuddering with each cry. Humbaba lashed out with his fiery hand, seizing Enkidu by the chest and hurling him against a tree. The wood splintered, the earth cracked. Enkidu gasped, blood upon his lips. "End it," he shouted. "Before he calls upon Enlil's wrath, strike him down." Gilgamesh raised his sword for the final blow, but Humbaba's voice changed. No longer thunder, but sorrow. "Wait," he said. "Do you not see, King of Men? I am not your enemy. I was once, as you are, chosen by the gods to serve. I begged for mercy, but Enlil chained me to this place to guard what mortals could never touch. End me, and you defy the will of heaven." Gilgamesh hesitated, the sword trembling in his grasp. The forest fell silent, waiting. Enkidu rose unsteadily, his eyes hard. "Do not be deceived, my brother. He speaks honey with a serpent's tongue. End him, or he will call the 7 winds to destroy us." The air stirred, a faint whisper of storm. Humbaba's eyes flickered, and the trees began to tremble once more. Enkidu's voice broke like a command. "Now, Gilgamesh." And with a cry that split heaven and earth, Gilgamesh struck. His sword cleaved through flame and shadow, and Humbaba fell. His voice, once thunder, became a whisper. "You have slain the servant of the gods, and now you bear their gaze." His body collapsed into smoke, and the forest shook as though it wept. For a moment, there was only silence. Then the light returned, pure and golden. The air grew still, and the trees bowed, not in anger, but in mourning. Gilgamesh stood over the fallen guardian, breathing heavily, his sword red with divine fire. Enkidu limped to his side. "It is done," he said, though his voice held no triumph. They looked upon the vast cedars and felt both victory and loss. Gilgamesh spoke softly. He was a monster, and yet I wonder if he was more man than we. They began to cut the sacred wood as the gods watched unseen. The scent of cedar filled the air, sweet, eternal. Each stroke of the axe echoed like a heartbeat, each fallen tree a whisper of defiance against the divine. When the sun finally dipped below the horizon, they built a great raft of cedar and prepared to return to Uruk, carrying the spoils of their impossible victory. But as night fell, Enkidu looked to the stars, his face troubled. "I have dreamed this night before," he murmured. "When the guardian falls, the heavens darken. The gods will not forgive this." Gilgamesh clasped his shoulder. "Let them rage. We are men, and we have made our mark upon the world." Far above them, the heavens stirred. Enlil's voice rolled like thunder across eternity. "The king of Uruk and the child of clay have slain my servant. Their names shall be known, but their joy shall not last." The storm began to gather on the edge of the world. Chapter 5. The Wrath of Heaven. The river carried their cedar raft downstream. Its scent thick and sweet upon the wind. Gilgamesh and Enkidu stood side by side, watching the waters glimmer beneath the sun. Behind them lay the forest of the gods, quiet now, its guardian slain. Before them, the walls of Uruk rose like the edge of dawn. The people saw their kings return and cried out with joy. Trumpets sounded from the towers, drums thundered from the temples, and the air filled with the scent of burning myrrh and victory. Gilgamesh stood upon the raft, his armor gleaming with divine fire, and raised his sword high for all to see. "People of Uruk," he called, "we have conquered the fear of gods. We have felled the guardian of the cedar forest and returned with the wood of immortality. Our names will live forever." The crowd erupted in praise, but among the cheering rose a voice that was neither mortal nor gentle. Ishtar, the goddess of love and war, stood upon the wall, radiant in her fury. Her eyes blazed like suns. Her robes shimmered with the colors of flame. "Gilgamesh," she said, her voice carrying across the square like the cry of a storm. "Your beauty and strength surpass all men. Take me as your bride, and I will give you power beyond imagining. You shall ride in my chariot of gold. Kings will bow before you, and the nations will tremble at your name." The crowd fell silent. Gilgamesh looked up at the goddess, his expression unreadable. Then he laughed. "Ishtar, queen of the heavens, your gifts are poison wrapped in silk. You have loved many, and where your love has fallen, death has followed. Would you make me as Tammuz, your shepherd, whom you doomed to the underworld? As the lion you caged, the stallion you crippled, the bird whose wings you broke? No, goddess, your love is destruction, and I will not be your next ruin." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The color drained from Ishtar's face, then returned tenfold in wrath. "You dare," she cried, her voice cracking the stones. "You, a mortal half-born, refuse the queen of heaven." Gilgamesh stood firm, unbowed. "I dare because I am no servant of desire. I am the master of my own fate." With a scream that split the sky, Ishtar vanished in a storm of petals and fire. The clouds above Uruk darkened. Thunder rolled like a beating heart. In the high heavens, she ascended to the throne of Anu, her father, the lord of the sky. "Father," she cried, "Gilgamesh has mocked me. He has stained my name before gods and men. Grant me vengeance. Send the bull of heaven to strike him down." Anu looked upon his daughter with sorrow. "Daughter, the bull of heaven brings famine and death. If it is loosed upon Uruk, thousands will perish. Do not ask what cannot be undone." But Ishtar fell to her knees, her tears burning like oil. "If you will not give me the bull, I will break the gates of the underworld. The dead will rise and devour the living." Anu sighed, for even the gods must yield to madness when love turns to rage. "So be it," he said. "Take the bull, and may the earth endure what follows." From the vault of heaven, the bull descended, vast and golden, its horns like crescents of the moon, its breath a storm of dust and fire. It struck the plain outside Uruk, and the ground split open, swallowing men and beasts alike. Rivers boiled, crops withered, and the air filled with the stench of death. The people fled to the city walls, crying, "Gilgamesh, Enkidu, save us." The heroes armed themselves and ran to the gate. When they beheld the bull of heaven, even Enkidu felt the shadow of fear. "This is no beast of earth," he said. "Each breath of its nostrils brings death. Its heart is thunder. Its hooves are judgment." Gilgamesh gripped his sword, eyes blazing. "Then let us strike together, as we did in the forest." "Brother, do not falter," the bull bellowed, and its roar shattered the air. It charged, gouging the earth, sending stones flying like arrows. The heroes leaped aside, rolling through the dust. Enkidu rose first and seized the bull's horn with both hands. His muscles strained, his feet dug into the ground, but the beast dragged him across the plain like a leaf in a storm. Gilgamesh rushed forward, slashing at its flank, his blade cutting deep. The bull reared, blood spraying from its side, but it did not fall. Again it charged. This time Enkidu leaped upon its back, gripping its mane of fire. "Now, Gilgamesh," he shouted, "strike true." Gilgamesh ran beneath the shadow of the bull, dodging its thrashing hooves, and plunged his sword into its throat. The bull screamed, a sound that echoed across heaven and earth, then collapsed, shaking the ground with its final breath. The plain fell silent. Only the wind moved, carrying the scent of cedar and blood. Enkidu stood panting, his body covered in dust. Gilgamesh raised his sword high, shouting to the heavens, "Behold, Ishtar, the bull of heaven lies dead before us." Ishtar appeared once more upon the wall, her face pale with fury. She tore at her hair and screamed curses upon them. But Enkidu, wild with triumph, tore a piece of the bull's carcass and hurled it toward her. "If I could reach you, goddess, I would strike you down as we did this beast." The people of Uruk erupted in cheers, their joy mingled with awe and fear. That night, the city celebrated their victory with feasting and song. But though wine flowed and laughter rose, a shadow lingered at the edge of Gilgamesh's heart. He dreamed of mountains crumbling, of rivers drying, of a voice whispering in the dark, "The gods are not done with you." And far above, in the assembly of heaven, the gods gathered. Enlil spoke, his tone cold as stone. "They have slain the bull of heaven, the instrument of divine wrath. The balance of the world trembles." Anu nodded gravely. "One of them must pay the price. Let death claim the one fashioned from clay, for he was never meant to defy the gods." In that moment, the fate of Enkidu was sealed. Chapter 6: The Death of Enkidu. The nights in Uruk grew cold after the bull of heaven fell. The stars themselves seemed dimmer, as if mourning the balance that had been broken. Gilgamesh still walked among his people, wearing the smile of a victor. Yet inside him a silence had begun, the silence before a storm. One night, Enkidu dreamed. He saw the council of the gods sitting upon their thrones of lapis and flame. Anu spoke first. "These two have slain the bull of heaven and the guardian of the cedar forest. One of them must die, for they have overstepped the bounds of men." Enlil's eyes were cold as the desert wind. "Let Enkidu fall. He was born of clay and wilderness. Let him return to the dust from which he came." Shamash, god of the sun, rose in protest. "But he fought by the will of the gods. It was I who guided their hands." Enlil's gaze did not waver. "Then let him pay the price of divine favor. Mortality must not forget its limits." Enkidu awoke in terror, his body drenched in sweat. "Brother," he cried, rushing to Gilgamesh, "in my dream, the gods sat in judgment. They have chosen me to die." Gilgamesh grasped his arm, laughing softly, though his heart trembled. "Dreams are wind, Enkidu. The gods cannot take you. We are their chosen." But Enkidu's eyes were distant. "No, my brother. I felt their voices inside my bones. Death has marked me." Days passed, and the strength of the wild man began to fade. His laughter grew weaker, his skin pale. He no longer ran through the streets with the vigor of a lion. At night he spoke to the shadows, muttering curses at the gods who had betrayed him. "Why," he said, "did you make me from the clay of beasts only to fill me with sorrow? I guarded the flocks, I ran free beneath the sky, but you brought me to Uruk to know friendship. And now you take that from me, too." Gilgamesh sat beside him, silent. He had faced monsters, storms, and the wrath of heaven, yet never had he known a foe he could not strike. "If I could fight death," he whispered, "I would tear it apart with my hands." One evening, as the sun sank behind the city walls, Enkidu lifted his eyes to the crimson sky. "My brother," he said softly, "I see the gates of darkness. They are wide, and no one who enters returns. The house of dust awaits me." Gilgamesh gripped his hand, Do not go, Enkidu. Stay, fight. We have faced worse and lived. But Enkidu only smiled faintly. We fought gods, Gilgamesh. There is nothing worse. That night, fever took him. He tossed and turned, crying out to Shamash, "You deceived me. You led me to slay Humbaba, to kill the bull of heaven, and now you abandon me." He cursed the hunter who had brought him from the wild, the temple woman who had tamed him, the very door of cedar they had cut from the forest. "May that door remember my strength," he groaned, "for soon it will outlast me." Gilgamesh tried to soothe him, but Enkidu's fury burned like fire. "Why should I die, and you live? We did all things together. Let the gods strike you too." Gilgamesh wept openly then, his tears falling upon the earth. "If I could take your place, I would. You were the shield at my side, the voice that steadied my heart. What is a king without his brother?" For 12 days, Enkidu struggled between life and death. The priests came, chanting prayers to Shamash and Ea. Offerings of bread, oil, and incense filled the air, but the gods were silent. On the 13th dawn, as light crept through the window, Enkidu's breathing slowed. He turned his head toward Gilgamesh. "Do not let me be forgotten," he whispered. "Carve our story in stone, so that the world will remember." Gilgamesh held his hand until it grew cold. "You will not be forgotten, my brother," he swore. "As long as I draw breath, your name will live." Enkidu smiled once more, a faint flicker, like the last glow of sunset, and was still. Gilgamesh cried out, his voice echoing through the palace, through the streets, through the walls of Uruk. "Hear me, O gods. You have taken my brother. You have taken the joy from my heart. What is greatness when all must die?" He wrapped Enkidu's body in fine linen, anointed him with oils, and placed him upon a bier of cedar. The people gathered, mourning the wild man who had tamed the heart of their king. Gilgamesh led the procession, his garments torn, his hair unbound, his feet bare upon the dust. "Weep for Enkidu," he cried. "He who ran with lions, who faced the bull of heaven, who was more than man." When the final rites were done, and the earth closed over his friend, Gilgamesh sat alone beside the river, his eyes hollow. The wind whispered through the reeds, carrying voices only he could hear. He rose slowly, speaking to the empty sky. "Must I die too? Is this the fate of all men? I, Gilgamesh, who built the walls of Uruk, am I to crumble like clay? No, I will not accept it. Somewhere there must be a secret, a way to escape death." The river rippled at his feet, reflecting his face like a broken mirror. He turned away from the city, from his crown, from everything he had built. "I will find Utnapishtim, the one who lived through the great flood. He knows the secret of life everlasting. I will walk to the ends of the earth if I must." And so Gilgamesh departed Uruk, clothed in skins, barefoot, his heart consumed by grief and defiance. Behind him, the city slept, and before him stretched the silent lands of shadow, where no mortal had ever returned. Chapter 7. The Journey Through Darkness. Gilgamesh left Uruk at dawn, the city walls still wet with dew, the streets silent as tombs. He did not look back. Behind him lay the echoes of laughter, the warmth of feasts, and the voice of his brother. Before him stretched the unknown deserts, mountains, and the shadow of death itself. He wandered first through the plains, where the wild donkeys grazed, then through the silent fields, where no birds sang. His heart was heavy with grief, his body clothed in skins, his beard tangled with dust. The people who saw him turned away, for his eyes burned with the madness of one who had spoken to gods and lost all he loved. For many days and nights he walked without rest, until he came to the mountains of Mashu, twin peaks whose summits pierced the heavens and whose roots reached the underworld. There the scorpion men kept eternal watch, guardians of the gate through which the sun entered and departed the world each day. When Gilgamesh approached, the scorpion men beheld him and were astonished, for his radiance was both mortal and divine. Their eyes, bright as fire, pierced through flesh and soul. The male scorpion spoke first, his voice rumbling like thunder beneath the earth. "Who are you that comes to this forbidden place, whose face bears the mark of the gods and the sorrow of men?" Gilgamesh bowed his head. "I am Gilgamesh of Uruk, 2/3 god and 1/3 man. I come seeking Utnapishtim, the one who lived through the great flood and was granted immortality. My companion Enkidu has died, and I cannot bear the thought that I too must die." The female scorpion looked upon him with pity. "No mortal may pass through these gates. The path beyond is darkness itself, 12 leagues of night, where the sun has never shone. Even the stars dare not follow." But Gilgamesh's voice was unshaken. "If I must walk through death to find life, then I will." The Scorpion King turned to his mate and nodded slowly. "Let him pass. His heart is strong, and his grief greater than fear. Perhaps the gods still have use for him." The gates of Mashu groaned open, ancient and vast, their hinges grinding like the bones of the world. Gilgamesh stepped inside. The darkness swallowed him whole. He walked 1 league, and blackness closed in like water. He walked 2, and he could no longer tell whether his eyes were open or shut. The silence pressed upon him like a weight. Only the echo of his own heartbeat marked the passing of time. At the 4th league, he stumbled and fell, scraping his hands on unseen stone. At the 6th, he began to hear whispers, the murmuring of lost souls, the sighs of forgotten kings. At the 9th, his strength faltered. "Enkidu," he whispered into the void, "if your spirit hears me, guide my steps. I walk where no man has walked." At the 12th league, a faint light appeared, a glow at the end of eternity. Gilgamesh ran toward it, his breath ragged, his limbs trembling. And suddenly, he emerged into a vast garden bathed in gold. The trees bore jewels for fruit, rubies for pomegranates, emeralds for figs, lapis for grapes. The air was still, filled with a silence that was not death, but eternity. He fell to his knees, blinded by the beauty. "Is this heaven?" he murmured. A woman approached him, radiant and sorrowful, dressed in shimmering blue. "No, wanderer," she said. "This is the garden of the sun, and I am Siduri, keeper of its gate." Her eyes studied him with both wonder and fear. "Why have you come, Gilgamesh? Few of the living find their way here." He bowed before her. "I seek Utnapishtim, who escaped death. I would learn his secret." Siduri shook her head gently. "You seek what all men desire, but none may keep. Even you, mighty king, cannot change the order of creation. Enjoy the life you have. Eat, drink, love, for the days of men are numbered." But Gilgamesh's heart burned. "How can I eat and drink when death has stolen my brother? When the dust waits for me too? Tell me the way, or I will find it without you." Seeing the fire in his eyes, Siduri sighed. "There is a ferryman who serves Utnapishtim. His name is Urshanabi. He guards the waters of death, the sea that no man can cross. Find him. and perhaps he will guide you." Gilgamesh thanked her and pressed on, leaving the jeweled garden behind. He found Urshanabi by the shore, among the mysterious stone men who served him. Gilgamesh, mad with exhaustion, mistook them for enemies and shattered them with his axe before the ferryman could cry out. "Fool," Urshanabi roared. "Those were my servants, shaped by the gods to bear the boat across the waters of death. Without them, you have doomed us both." Gilgamesh fell to his knees. "Then show me what I must do to cross. I will rebuild your boat, row until my hands bleed. Only take me to Utnapishtim." The ferryman studied him for a long time, then nodded. "Gather poles, 300 of them, each 60 cubits long. Coat them in pitch, for you must not touch the waters, or you will die as swiftly as a shadow." Gilgamesh worked through the night, cutting the poles and sealing the vessel. At dawn, they pushed off. The sea was vast and black as obsidian, silent as the grave. No wind stirred, no stars shone. Each time a pole touched the water, it hissed and turned to ash. For 6 days and 7 nights, they sailed through endless dark. On the 7th day, when the last pole was spent, the horizon broke. And there, on a distant shore, stood a figure wreathed in light, watching them approach. Urshanabi whispered, "Behold, Utnapishtim, the faraway, the one who has conquered death." Gilgamesh's heart pounded. "At last," he said, "at last I will learn the secret of eternity." Chapter 8. The Immortal's Tale. The sea was still as glass when Gilgamesh's boat touched the far shore. He stepped onto the sand, his feet trembling from exhaustion, his heart burning with a single hope that beyond this place, death might yet be undone. Before him stood a man clothed in white, his eyes calm and ancient as the stars. His hair shone with the pale hue of moonlight, yet his face bore no mark of age. Around him, the air shimmered faintly, as though the breath of eternity moved with him. "Are you Utnapishtim?" Gilgamesh asked, bowing low. "The one who found eternal life?" The man regarded him in silence for a long moment, then spoke. His voice was soft, but it carried the weight of the ages. "I am Utnapishtim, son of Uruk, and you, wanderer of the mortal world, who have crossed the mountains of Mashu and the waters of death, who are you?" "I am Gilgamesh, king of Uruk, 2/3 god and 1/3 man," the traveler said, lifting his weary head. "My brother Enkidu has died, and the thought of my own death consumes me. I have come seeking the secret of immortality. Tell me, how did you escape what claims all men?" Utnapishtim looked at him with both pity and sorrow. "You seek what cannot be found, for even the gods cannot give freely what they have decreed to be rare. Yet, since you have come so far, I will tell you how I came to dwell at the edge of the world." He sat upon a rock and gestured for Gilgamesh to sit beside him. The sky above them was vast and silent, the air heavy with the scent of distant rain. In the days when the world was young, Utnapishtim began. Men multiplied and grew loud upon the earth. Their noise rose to heaven like a storm, disturbing the gods in their rest. Enlil, lord of the winds, said, "The clamor of mankind is unbearable. Let them be destroyed, that we may have peace." But Ea, the god of wisdom, pitied the race of men. He spoke to me through the walls of my house as I slept, saying, "Son of Ubaratutu, tear down your house and build a ship. Leave your possessions, seek life. Bring into the vessel the seed of every living thing, your family, and the beasts of the field. For a flood will come that shall sweep away all flesh." I listened, though fear gripped my heart. I built the ship as Ea commanded, long and wide, sealed with pitch, its sides towering like a mountain. When the appointed day came, the sky darkened at noon. The clouds gathered thick with wrath. The storm god, Adad, roared within them. The foundations of the earth were broken, and the flood rose. The gods themselves fled to the highest heaven, cowering like dogs beside Anu's throne. For 6 days and 7 nights the wind raged, the waters covered all lands. On the 7th day the sea grew quiet, and I looked upon the world, but all mankind had turned to clay. My ship came to rest upon Mount Nisir. I waited 7 more days, then released a dove. It found no resting place and returned. I sent a swallow, but it too came back. At last I sent a raven, and it did not return, for the waters had receded. Then I made an offering to the gods. The smoke rose sweetly, and the gods gathered like flies around the sacrifice. When Enlil saw that I had lived, he was enraged. "Who has done this?" he cried. But Ea spoke boldly. "You, Enlil, were unjust. Punish the sinner, not the innocent. Spare him who obeyed." Enlil was silent, then approached me. He took my hand and led me and my wife before the gods. "Henceforth, far from mankind, and death shall not touch them." And so it was. Utnapishtim's eyes drifted toward the horizon, where the sea met the sky. "That is how I came to dwell here, beyond time. But understand, Gilgamesh, the flood will not come again, and the gift of life everlasting will never be given to man a second time. It was a one-time mercy, never to be repeated." Gilgamesh bowed his head. "Then it was by chance, not by strength, that you were saved. I have fought beasts and defied gods. Must I still die as a common man?" Utnapishtim smiled faintly. "It is not might that wins against death, Gilgamesh. Even kings and heroes are swept away by time. But if you truly believe yourself worthy, prove it. Stay awake for 6 days and 7 nights, conquer sleep, which is the brother of death. Then perhaps you may learn the secret you seek." Gilgamesh agreed, and sat down upon the shore. The wind whispered softly through the reeds, the waves lapping at his feet. For a time he remained alert, his mind sharp with purpose. But soon weariness crept upon him. His head grew heavy, his eyelids thick. He struggled against it, but like all men before him, he succumbed. Sleep came quietly, like a tide rising around his soul. When the 7th dawn broke, Utnapishtim's wife looked upon the sleeping hero and spoke gently. "See, my husband, he too is mortal. Even he cannot overcome sleep." Utnapishtim nodded sadly. "Lay a loaf of bread beside him each day he sleeps, so that when he wakes, he may see how long he has slumbered." On the 1st day, the bread was fresh. On the 2nd, it grew dry. On the 3rd, it hardened. On the 4th, it cracked. On the 5th, mold appeared. On the 6th, it stank. On the 7th day, Gilgamesh stirred and opened his eyes. "I have stayed awake," he said triumphantly, but Utnapishtim pointed to the loaves beside him, 7 in all. "Behold, Gilgamesh, this is the mark of your sleep. You could not conquer even the gentlest of deaths." The king's shoulders fell, his spirit broken. Then there is no hope. All men must die. But Utnapishtim's wife, moved by compassion, whispered to her husband, "If he cannot find life eternal, at least let him take a token of hope back to his people." Utnapishtim considered her words and turned to Gilgamesh. "There is one thing more," he said. "At the bottom of the sea grows a plant. Its thorns prick like a scorpion's tail, but its flower grants renewal to those who eat it. If you can reach it, you may regain your youth, though not your immortality. Gilgamesh's eyes blazed once more with purpose. Tell me where it lies, and I will bring it back, not only for me, but for all mankind. Utnapishtim smiled faintly. Then dives, son of Uruk, and seek your fate. And so the hero prepared once again to challenge the depths of gods and death alike. Chapter 9. The Flower of Rebirth. The sky was gray when Gilgamesh rose from his sorrow. The waves of the sea murmured softly as though they whispered the secrets of the deep. Far beyond the horizon, the sun broke through clouds like molten gold, and in that light he found a spark of hope that would not die. Utnapishtim stood beside him, watching silently. The plant you seek, said the immortal, grows at the bottom of these waters. Its stalk gleams like lapis. Its flower burns with crimson fire. It is guarded by the darkness of the abyss, where no mortal breath can reach. If your heart is strong, you may yet grasp it. But remember, Gilgamesh, even gifts from the gods can be lost. Gilgamesh took a deep breath and nodded. Then I shall dive, though the sea itself crush my bones. He stripped off his armor, heavy with bronze, and tied great stones to his feet. His heart pounded like a drum of war. With a cry to Shamash, the sun god who had watched over his journey, he leaped into the waters. The sea closed above him with a sound like thunder. Down he sank, past the green glow of the upper waters, into a gloom where no light had ever lived. The weight of the world pressed upon him. His lungs burned, yet still he went deeper, guided by will alone. Around him, pale shapes drifted, ancient spirits of the drowned, their eyes hollow and silent. He reached the ocean floor, where the sand shimmered faintly like silver dust. There, among coiling roots, he saw it, the flower of rebirth. Its petals glowed softly, like the heart of a star. Its scent filled the dark with a memory of spring, of life before sorrow, of all that men had lost. Gilgamesh grasped it carefully, for its thorns were sharp as daggers. As he pulled it free, a faint pulse ran through his hands, warm and alive, like a heartbeat. He cut the stones from his feet, and the sea bore him upward. He burst from the surface, gasping, the flower clutched tightly in his fist. Sunlight struck the waves, scattering gold across his face. For the first time in many days, he smiled. Utnapishtim and his wife watched from the shore. You have done what no man has done before, said the immortal. Return now to Uruk, the city of your fathers. Wash yourself, dress in royal garments once more, and let your people see their king renewed. Gilgamesh bowed. I will not eat the flower, Utnapishtim. I will take it to Uruk, and there I will share its gift with my people, that all may be made young again. No man should keep such a treasure for himself. Utnapishtim smiled sadly. You speak with the heart of a king. Yet beware that gods love balance, and what they give with one hand, they may take with the other. Gilgamesh turned his face toward the rising sun. The sea wind filled his cloak like a sail. He began the long journey home. For many days he traveled across deserts and mountains. The flower he kept wrapped in clean reeds, soaked with dew to keep it fresh. Each night he gazed upon it, and its glow seemed to drive away the darkness. He imagined the joy of his people when he would return to Uruk and cry out, "Behold, I have brought back the life that was lost." At last, after many miles, he reached a clear pool surrounded by stones. The air was cool, the water pure. His body was weary from the road, and he said to his companion, a boatman named Urshanabi, "Let us rest here. I will wash myself and refresh my strength before we go on." He laid the flower upon the bank and stepped into the water. The coolness soothed his limbs, washing away the salt and dust of his journey. For a moment, he closed his eyes in peace. Then the serpent came. It slid silently from the shadows, drawn by the scent of the divine flower. Its scales shimmered with green and gold, its eyes ancient as the earth itself. With a swift motion, it seized the plant and swallowed it whole. When Gilgamesh turned, he saw only the ripples spreading across the pool, and the serpent slithering away, shedding its skin as it went, leaving behind a gleaming trail. In that instant, he understood. The creature had taken the gift of renewal for itself. He fell to his knees upon the earth. The wind stirred the reeds. "All my toil," he whispered, "all my pain for nothing." His cry echoed through the hills, but the gods were silent. Urshanabi came and laid a hand upon his shoulder. "Do not grieve. The serpent's new skin is proof that life renews itself, though not as men desire. You have not failed. You have seen what no other man will ever see." Gilgamesh rose slowly. His face was calm now, the fire in his eyes softened by sorrow and wisdom. "Perhaps you are right," he said. "The gods did not mean for us to escape death, only to understand it." He lifted his gaze to the horizon. Far away, the walls of Uruk gleamed in the distance, tall and bright under the setting sun. "Come," he said to Urshanabi, "let us go home. I will show my people the walls I have built, the true work that endures." And so he walked on, leaving behind the place where the serpent had taken the flower. The wind carried the faint scent of the sea, and the sun sank in glory over the western hills. In the twilight, his shadow stretched long upon the earth, the shadow of a man who had faced the gods and returned, not with immortality, but with understanding. He no longer sought to escape death. He sought to live, and to leave behind a name that time itself could not erase. Chapter 10. The Return to Uruk. The road stretched long before him, winding through the sands like a serpent of dust. Gilgamesh walked in silence, the waves of heat rising from the desert floor, his feet bare, his cloak torn by wind and time. Behind him lay the sea, the lost flower, and all the dreams that had faded like mist at dawn. Before him, Uruk, the city of his birth, the cradle of his pride, and the measure of his destiny. Urshanabi followed at his side, the oar of his boat now a walking staff. For 7 days they journeyed through the wilderness. They passed the stone mountains where the scorpion men once guarded the sun's gate, and the forests that Enkidu had known. Each place whispered memories, voices of laughter, of battle, of friendship now gone. On the 7th evening, as the sun melted into crimson haze, they reached the plain of the 2 rivers. There, upon the horizon, the walls of Uruk shone like bronze fire. The towers rose into the sky, their shadows long across the fertile fields. A murmur reached Gilgamesh's ears, the distant hum of life, the voices of his people, the sound of hammers and song. He stopped and gazed upon his city. For the first time, he saw it not with the eyes of a conqueror, but with the heart of a man who had lost everything. "Behold, Urshanabi," he said softly. "This is the city I built. Its walls stand firm, its gates endure. The flower has perished, but this will live after me." They crossed the river, and the guards at the gate bowed deeply, astonished to see their king return from the realm beyond the sea. Word spread like wind through the streets. The king has returned. Gilgamesh lives. The people gathered, filling the roads, crying his name. Children ran before him, scattering flowers, and the elders lifted their hands in blessing. But Gilgamesh's eyes were calm, and his step unhurried. He saw the joy in their faces, yet also the fleeting shadow that passed over every mortal brow. He entered the palace, where once he had ruled in arrogance, where the halls of cedar had echoed with his commands. Now they seemed quiet, as though waiting for something deeper than power. He went to the temple of Ninsun, his divine mother, and laid his forehead upon the stone floor. "Mother," he whispered, "I have walked beyond the edge of the world. I have seen death and the face of the gods. I sought immortality and found only sorrow, but I have returned with wisdom. The life of man is short, but our works may stand forever." And Ninsun's voice came to him as a breath of wind among the pillars. "My son, no man may live forever, but the gods have placed eternity in the hearts of kings, to rule with justice, to protect the weak, to build and not destroy. That is the path to the name that does not fade." So Gilgamesh rose, and from that day the city of Uruk changed. No longer did he take the sons for endless labor, nor the daughters for his own pleasure. He walked among his people, spoke with them, and listened. He rebuilt the temples not to glorify himself, but to honor the gods and the memory of Enkidu. He ordered the planting of gardens along the riverbanks, where children might play and the old might rest. At night he would climb the high walls, looking out upon the lands that stretched to the horizon. The stars hung above like eyes of ancient gods, watching, waiting. He would remember the cedar forest, the monster Humbaba, the bull of heaven, and the friend who had stood beside him through it all. Sometimes he spoke softly into the wind. "Do you see, Enkidu? Our names endure in the stones and songs of Uruk. Though you are gone, you live in all that we built together." Years passed. His hair silvered, his stride slowed, but his spirit remained bright. Travelers came from distant kingdoms to behold the great city, its walls unbroken, its gardens vast, its king wise beyond measure. They said, "Gilgamesh has conquered time, for his city stands like a jewel in the desert." One day, a young scribe approached him in the palace courtyard. The boy bowed and said, "My lord, I have heard tales of your journey of Enkidu, of the flood, of the serpent that stole the flower. Will you tell me these stories, that I may write them upon the tablets of clay, lest they be lost when we are gone?" Gilgamesh looked into the boy's eyes and smiled. "Yes," he said, "write them, for words are the true seed of eternity. Let all who come after know what we have done, our folly and our wisdom, our strength and our grief. Let them remember that even the mightiest must bow before death, yet still can leave behind a light that does not fade." So the boy wrote. He pressed the stylus into wet clay, shaping signs that would outlast empires. And as he wrote, the king spoke with a voice deep as the river's heart, weaving his story through the ages. When the last word was set, Gilgamesh rose and stood upon the walls once more. The wind carried the scent of the desert, the song of the people, and the beating of his own heart. He lifted his eyes to the heavens and whispered, "I am content." The stars above shimmered brighter, as if the gods themselves listened. The river flowed, the walls stood firm, and time moved on. And though Gilgamesh, son of Lugalbanda and Ninsun, mortal king of Uruk, would one day return to the dust, his story did not die. It lived in the clay, in the voice of every teller, in the dream of every man who dared to seek meaning beyond death. Thus ended the long journey of Gilgamesh, the man who sought immortality and found eternity in his own heart. Chapter 11. The Tablets of Memory. The morning sun rose over Uruk, pouring gold upon the high walls and the ziggurats that crowned the city like mountains of stone. The river shimmered beneath its light, winding through the fields like a living serpent. And in the courtyard of the palace, Gilgamesh sat upon a low seat of carved basalt, his hands resting on his knees, his gaze far away, fixed not upon the world before him, but upon the vast horizon of memory. Before him knelt the young scribe Shenadar, his fingers stained with clay and ink. Around them lay tablets, dozens of them covered in cuneiform signs, wet and glistening in the light. The sound of the stylus scratching through clay was like rain on dry earth. Each mark carved a heartbeat, a breath, a remembrance. "Write this, Shenador," said Gilgamesh, his voice calm as the river at dusk. "Write of the days before the flood, when the gods walked among men. Write of Enkidu, the wild one, my brother, who came from the steppe and tamed my heart. Write of the cedar forest, of Humbaba's cry, of the bull of heaven that shook the earth. Let all who read remember not only our strength, but our sorrow." The scribe nodded, his eyes wide with reverence. "I will, my lord. Each word shall be as true as the stone beneath Uruk's walls." So Gilgamesh spoke, and Shenador wrote. Hour after hour, his words flowed like a river that could not be stopped, words heavy with grief, yet shining with truth. He spoke of the laughter of Enkidu by the riverside, of the day they set forth to earn glory, of the moment when death first touched the world. His voice faltered, but he did not stop, for he knew that only by speaking could he make sense of the pain that lived within him still. When the sun reached its zenith, the king's hands trembled slightly. He paused and looked at the young scribe. "The clay remembers, Shenador. Long after our bones are dust, these marks will remain. Even the river cannot wash them away. The words of men are fragile, but once written, they are stronger than time." The scribe smiled faintly. "Then you shall live forever, my king." Gilgamesh looked at him, and in his eyes was something softer than pride, a quiet understanding. "No, not I," he said. "It is not the man who lives forever, but the story. The name fades, the tale endures. That is the gift of the gods and their mercy." Outside, the air was full of life, the sound of hammers on bronze, of women singing as they wove cloth, of children laughing in the courtyards. Gilgamesh listened, and each sound became a thread in the tapestry of his memory. For he saw now that immortality was not a single shining jewel to be taken from the gods, but a web woven from countless mortal moments, fragile, fleeting, yet eternal when remembered. At dusk, Shenador lifted the last tablet. "It is done," he said softly. 12 tablets, each filled with your words." 12, murmured Gilgamesh, as though the number itself held power. As the months of the year, as the steps of the sun's journey, as the gates between life and death. Let them be kept within the temple of Ninsan, sealed beneath the stone floor. There they shall sleep until the earth itself forgets its own name." The scribe bowed deeply, and together they carried the tablets to the temple. The walls glowed in the torchlight, carved with images of gods and kings, long vanished. They descended into the chamber below, where the air was cool and still. There, upon a great slab of limestone, Gilgamesh laid his story down. He placed his hand upon the clay, feeling its coldness against his palm. "To you, who will read these words in ages to come," he whispered, "know this. I was Gilgamesh, king of Uruk. I built the walls that endured. I loved, I lost, I sought eternity, and found it not in the gods, but in the hearts of men. Remember me, not for my might, but for my search." Then he stood in silence, listening to the echo of his own voice fade into the stone. The torches flickered, casting long shadows that swayed like spirits of the past. When they emerged again, the night had fallen. Stars burned over Uruk like sparks from the forge of heaven. The moon shone upon the river, and its reflection trembled with the wind. Shenadar looked at the king and asked, "What now, my lord? Your story is written. What remains for Gilgamesh?" The king turned toward the city, his eyes upon its towers and walls. "Now I live," he said simply. "For the first time, I live. The gods may keep their immortality. I have built mine with my own hands." They walked along the ramparts in silence. From below rose the scent of bread baking, the cry of a newborn, the laughter of a woman calling her child. Gilgamesh felt the pulse of Uruk beneath his feet, the heartbeat of the people who would carry his name long after his dust had mingled with the earth. And somewhere, far beyond the stars, the gods watched and said among themselves, "He has learned the secret. He has become, as we wished, a man who knows he must die, yet chooses to create." The wind rose, and the lamps of the city flickered. The tablets lay beneath the temple, silent but alive. Their marks, pressed by human hands, would endure floods, fire, and centuries of forgetting. One day, another would find them buried beneath sand and stone, and Gilgamesh would rise again, not in flesh, but in word. 4 stories, 2 are gods. And thus the voice of Uruk's king passed beyond time, carried upon the breath of memory, whispered through the ages by men and women who would never know his face, yet would know his soul. Chapter 12. The Song of the Walls. The first light of dawn spilled across the walls of Uruk, gilding the stones with a warm glow. Each brick seemed to hum, carrying within it the weight of centuries, the sweat and hands of men who had built, who had dreamed, who had loved and wept. Gilgamesh climbed the highest tower, feeling the cold stone beneath his palms, and looked out across the city he had ruled, the city he had fought for, the city he had sought to immortalize. Below, the streets stirred. Merchants called, children laughed, priests chanted, and the river gleamed like a silver ribbon through the heart of the land. Gilgamesh breathed deeply. The wind carried the scent of baking bread, cedar, and the faint salt of distant seas. Every sound, every movement, was a pulse of life, a song that the gods themselves could not silence. He walked along the ramparts, tracing the contours of the walls with his fingers. Each stone had a story, the quarried rock from distant mountains, the labor of countless hands, the prayer of those who shaped it. He remembered Enkidu, his brother in arms, and felt the emptiness that remained where his laughter had once echoed. He thought of the journey to the waters of death, the depths he had faced, the flower that had slipped from his grasp. And yet, he was here, alive, and the city endured. The walls whispered to him now, in the wind that swept through the towers. "Look at us," they seemed to say. "We are the measure of your striving. We are your witness and your memory. Mortals may fall, gods may command, but what is built with courage and love endures." Gilgamesh knelt beside the highest stone, pressing his hand against it. "I have sought the eternal," he murmured. "I have walked beyond the bounds of men, faced death and despair, and yet it is here, in these stones, these streets, these lives, that immortality sings, not in a flower, nor in the gift of the gods, but in what men can create and remember." He gazed across the walls at the fields and rivers, at the homes and temples. Uruk breathed beneath him, alive with the rhythm of human life. Every voice, every laugh, every footstep was a note in a symphony, older than kings, older than empires, older than the gods themselves. Here in the enduring pulse of the city, Gilgamesh understood the secret that had eluded him in the deep waters and the sunless abyss. True immortality was not escape from death, but the shaping of life so that it might continue after one's flesh was gone. He thought of Enkidu again, the wild man who had tamed him, who had run beside him, who had laughed and cried and died. He too lived in every story told, every memory shared, every act of friendship and courage that he had inspired. Gilgamesh's heart swelled with a quiet joy, tinged with sorrow. To remember was to honor. To honor was to grant life beyond flesh. The city's walls caught the first golden rays, reflecting them like mirrors of time. They had been built by mortal hands, yet they seemed eternal, their edges sharp against the sky, their presence both guardian and witness. Gilgamesh raised his voice, and for the first time, not as a king commanding obedience, but as a man who had journeyed beyond life and returned, he spoke to Uruk. "Behold, city of my fathers, city of our hands and hearts. Let all who walk your streets know this. Mortality is our burden, but our deeds endure. We rise, we fall, we love, we grieve, yet what we build and remember cannot be taken by the winds or drowned in floods. Stand, Uruk, as a testament to life, to friendship, to courage, to humanity." The wind carried his words along the walls and into the streets, into the hearts of all who lived there. Children ran laughing, elders smiled, and even the stones themselves seemed to hum with resonance. Above, the sun rose higher, casting a warm light that embraced the city like a golden crown. Gilgamesh stood in silence, listening to the pulse of Uruk. Every wall, every gate, every carved stone sang its own song. He had sought the eternal, and found it not in gifts from the gods, but in the hearts of men, in the memory of friendship, in the city he had shaped, and that, he understood at last, was enough. As the day grew, the king descended the steps of the tower and walked through the streets. He touched the hands of the laborers, smiled at the children, bowed to the elders. Everywhere, life moved on, relentless and beautiful, and Gilgamesh felt a profound peace. Night fell, and the stars appeared, bright against the velvet sky. He climbed once more to the walls and gazed upon Uruk, sleeping beneath the moon. Somewhere in the world, Enkidu's spirit might run free, and the stories would continue to be told, as they always had been and always would be. The epic was complete, not because the gods had granted him immortality, but because the story itself was eternal. In the songs sung by minstrels, in the tablets etched by scribes, in the laughter of children, and the memory of all who came after, Gilgamesh lived. The walls, gleaming and steadfast, seemed to lean toward him, whispering in the language of stone and wind, "Here stands the city of men. Here endures their courage, their sorrow, their love. Here is immortality." And in that whisper, Gilgamesh smiled, for he knew that life in all its fleeting beauty was a song worth singing, and that even as mortals die there, deeds, their stories, and their hearts would echo across the ages, as eternal as the walls of Uruk.